But you talk about
you're the truth.
these narratives, and like for me, when we talk about systemic racism, my civics teacher said when you watch Forrest Gump, right, Jenny is kind of the character that's trying to change the world, and then what happens to her? She's abused. She get I
never looked at it like that. Oh, that's kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
Right. And so a lot of times people see something going on.
Yep.
They want to change it, but then they're afraid of maybe losing their position, their power, or even the white lash, as Van Jones would say.
Yes.
And so as you're doing this curriculum, how are you able to navigate what happens when people get that blowback? Because it's great to say, hey, we need to all live together. We need to have everything we need. But we've seen, Pitt just, lost some funding, in the battle with the budget. Like, we've seen what happens when you try to have equity. So, like, how are you preparing for that, even personally, but even through this project to let people know that part is coming as well?
I tell folks, and so, I've been doing this for the past couple of years, and I've had the opportunity to do it with a bunch of very multicultural cohorts, people with all sorts of backgrounds, and I've done it sometimes with just primarily white folks, where I actually had one cohort, 200 white folks over 7 sessions,
wow.
And part of what I tell folks, right, in terms of really understanding what's possible is that when you truly believe in the world you want to live in, and when you truly believe in your capacity to affect change, I'm telling you, it becomes part of your ethos.
Do you ask them, like, is the first question, where were y'all on January 6th?
What? No,
let me see your last 20 years voting history.
Part of what I ask folks right off the bat is, what sort of world do you want to live in? You want to live in a world in which everybody can thrive? Well, that means
nigger free,
right? And that's the thing. It's like that's kind of the thing.
Let him answer my question.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Right,
no, but to your point, it's getting folks to realize we all have a stake in the world that we want to live in. Too often we're socialized to believe that we're powerless or that we don't have capacity to affect change. And when you can get people to understand the power that they have, right, even if it's just influencing their communities of influence, it becomes almost intoxicating because people begin to realize, wait a minute, I can make change happen starting with myself, right? And then if I can, one, put myself in a better position, understand how to articulate the world I want to live in, and then I can share that with my communities of influence, my family, my colleagues, my peers, you start to realize there's a butterfly effect, right? That when you put yourself in a position where people are like, man, this person's real true to who they want to be and how they get there, you influence other people. We never really understand that sort of social influence that we have. And so, again, I say imagine a world in which we can all talk openly without anxiety about the systems in which we exist. You're going to find people being much more productive and constructive to the change they want to see. And to the point about backlash, again, I tell folks, part of what we all have to get really good at is understanding that systems of oppression, right, in many ways will fight to maintain themselves. And so to the extent that, you got to be prepared, for that system to want to maintain itself. But if you understand how to intervene and how to disrupt on a systemic level, man, it becomes almost like cakework. Because ultimately, people who don't have a community's best interest at heart, they'll begin to show themselves. One of the things I talk about with regards to our current state of politics is that it's become very clear that a certain side is running out of ideas. And so they're leaning on all sorts of nonsense, right, to try and keep their sort of control of power. But in reality, they don't have good stories to tell, right? And so in reality, it says people with better stories are going to be in a better position to run the future. And we need more people to step up with better stories, right? And not just the sort of negative, everything's terrible. No one really leans into that. They want people who understand what's happening, but also understand what's possible, right? And so again, MLK, he tried to say, listen, I don't want to die a martyr, but I'm trying to tell y'all we need to learn how to construct the future that we want to live in and not simply just resist it. We got to learn how to construct new things. We got to learn how to tell new stories. We got to be able to foster new relationships, right? And so in that sense, yes, it's very Mr. Rogers, but it's very true. That is the path towards liberation. You know what I'm saying? And so in that sense, it really starts with each of us understanding what is my capacity to affect change, right? Realizing you can influence your kids, your families, your peers, the people that are watching this, and that the more we do it consistently and make that part of our ethos, the more that people will lean into it. And that's what I found, through the research that we do, the way that we engage, that people, once they become very clear about who they are and the world they want to live in, man, all that other stuff that would normally slow them down becomes almost side stuff.